Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome aboard our full throttle sample kind of options training that we do. The slide is incorrect. I think we have about 23 full, easy for me to say, full throttle slots today. And I know that's just what I know, and I know Susie has about 20 emails or something like that from folks. As I just answered somebody, if we finish and we fill up all our annual slots today or tomorrow, folks, we won't open monthly slots. That's just the way it is. We prefer to have folks who are motivated and ready to get on board. So we'll see how the night and tomorrow goes. All right, let's get talking here. Wow. So I got the market going into the close wrong. Absolute biggest short squeeze I've ever seen. We're going to talk about all this stuff, folks, because it's been insane. All sanity has left the stock market, and that is never a good thing. Tesla's starting to come back to earth. They have a factory in Shanghai that's closed indefinitely, so I don't know where Apple's getting this whole, hey, we're going back to work in a couple days. We'll talk through the coronavirus. As Tamara just wrote in the chat box, there's a case in Wisconsin, in Madison. And finally, I was just watching Tucker. I was flipping between the Blackhawks hockey game and Tucker Carlson. Fox News finally showed all the videos that I showed you Monday. Did you see it? They finally showed those videos from the guy I showed you about the crematoriums, and the Fox News guys like, it appears that the Chinese are lying about their death count. Folks, it's absolute insanity, and it's going to end awfully. So I just gave you a slot update. Here's what we're going to do tonight. I'm going to give you a little quick brief about the full throttle training program. Then we're going to do a sample. We'll take a look at a bullish spread first of all, because I wanted to talk about the defense stocks. That's what we're bullish on, and then maybe a bearish position. But tonight, first thing we're going to do is talk through the trade plan, ladies and gentlemen. Real quick reminder, tomorrow's it. So tomorrow, we're knocking out our vertical spread training tonight. Tomorrow at 10 a.m. is our weekly debrief. We're going to cover all the trades we looked at this week, potential new trades, and like I just said, if we have any monthly slots, we can open them there. Make sure you got the replay page. I know one of our strategic partners actually sent an email tonight to give people a heads up, because he's like, dude, you've been nailing this stuff, and he sent some of his folks over. So here's the replay page. Let me put the link in the chat box. The replay from today is posted. We talked about getting long volatility with the did you see what the VIX did going into the close? I mean, as this market ripped higher into the close because of algos, volatility kind of stayed where it was. Volatility is not going down, folks, and that's one of the instruments in your trading cockpit I'm going to teach you that you need to keep in your scan, folks. The VIX is the canary in the coal mine here, and the bond market. We have an inverted yield curve right now, which is just absolutely insane. Okay, you guys know who I am, all that stuff. Let's get rid of this. Over in the chat box, and Robert, I'm probably going to take you up on it. Larry, are you in here? I'm going to hook you up with Robert. He's been doing some great work behind the scenes with Tamara and some other folks on the trade plans, coming up with their own stuff. But it's in the handouts down there. You can get a copy of one of our members' trade plan and how he kind of fills it out. And it's for handwritten, folks. I showed you the other day. I ain't no Excel sheet dude. I'm not a Word doc dude. I write my trades down. There's something about picking up a pen. What the hell's a pen? Yeah, my kids don't even know how to write cursive. There's something about picking up a pen, using your brain, telling your brain neurons to fire through your hand and write stuff down. When you write your commit criteria down, it means something. You did it, not sitting here typing in an Excel sheet and being a booger eater. Write the stuff down so you see it in your handwriting. So you go back in a couple days and go, hey man, this trade's moved against me. Why did I get in this? Okay, this. Yeah, that's my writing. When you're looking at an Excel sheet or a Word doc, it's kind of impersonal. Yeah, exactly. Tamara, it's called neuroplasticity or whatever. So I'm going to go through our trade plan right now. I usually do this Monday night with our welcome aboard brief. I didn't because there was closer alligators to the boat, like a global contagion. After market hours today, ladies and gentlemen, Goldman Sachs came out with a report that said global GDP as of now is going to take a 2% hit. That math is staggering, folks. And as I've been telling you, this thing hasn't started. So the market closing at record highs today is irrational. But let me give you one of my wisdoms right now that will serve you well. If the market isn't doing what you think it should be doing, you're wrong, not the market. I will say that again. If the market's not doing what you think it should be doing, you're wrong, not the market. The market is always right, correct? Price discovery. The price is the price. So if something does not compute with you, sit there and watch. Me, I take a little bit more of an aggressive stance. In the 10 years of Top Gun options, we're usually early, and I'd rather be early on stuff, making some of our calls. Okay, so we're going to go through the trade plan tonight, and then we're going to get in, and obviously the market's closed, but we're going to look at a credit spread, why I don't like doing debit spreads unless somebody else is paying for them, and then we'll talk through some other issues. So good crowd tonight. I'm glad you guys are here, and we're going to get airborne. Mary, we're supposed to be able to access replays from earlier today. The FT replay does not work. Can you help? I can't help you because the page is working for me. This is the page right here, folks. Go.topgunoptions.com/FT replay. This is it right here. I'm pushing play. That video is playing. The page is working. Can't help you. All right. So our trade plan. Listen to me, ladies and gentlemen. This is the only place you're going to get this. And I'm not kidding. How many of you have been to one of these webinars or even in person, right? I went to the Orlando Money Show, and some guy with a fake, Armani suit and a Bolex on his wrist talked about being disciplined and having a trade plan. And then when I asked him for it, he didn't give it to me because he doesn't have one. Folks, I went from the cockpit to Wall Street, and I'm like, okay, I hear people mentioning this whole trade plan thing. Where is it? Yeah, okay, next question, Wiz. No, stop. So I made this up, folks, and people on the institutionals, I have buddies who run massive amounts of money who use this. So 7-step trade plan, here we go. Step 1 in your trade plan, folks, and this has to be done before you do any trade, okay? Think of trading as being an aviator, man. You don't jump in the cockpit and go, let's fire up the motors and slam the throttle forward. That's how, like on Air Florida flight, you don't put the flaps down and you end up in the Potomac, folks. You have got to complete every one of these steps. And by the time we're done going through this trade plan, you're going to sit there and go, wait a minute, I should know before I even get in the trade when I'm getting out, what my profit target is and what my eject point is. Yeah, the answer is yes, folks. So step 1 in when you're looking to do anything is, what is your strategic mindset, folks? Right? If you are bullish, like all get out, and why are you going to place a bearish trade? So we got to start at 100,000 feet. What is your strategic mindset? There's 4 strategic mindsets we can have in investing. You can be bullish, duh, self-explanatory. You can be bearish. You can think the market's going to be volatile, or you could be neutral. Hey, man, we're going to just kind of trade sideways here. But there's also variations of that, right? For most of this rally here, folks, I was what? Big C, little b. I was cautiously bullish. Last week, I got very bearish. Okay, so that's what variations mean. So I'm cautiously bullish, I'm extremely bearish, whatever. Start with this. Start at 100,000 feet with your piece of paper and go, all right, what am I right now? Now we have what? Gone through 300 as I'm asking you. Where is my poll? Here we go. So now let's check this out. Let's see what your fellow wingmen are doing. What is your current strategic mindset? Everybody vote. And I'm going to play some Jeopardy music. All right, so you're either bullish, bearish, you think February, and I'm going short term, guys. You can't look past tomorrow in this market, let alone 6 months or a year. 6 months or a year from now, unless we're all dead, the market will be up. Let's talk February. What are you for February? Okay. All right. Couple more seconds. How many of you voted? We have 60% have voted. Get in there, folks. Don't type it in the chat box. It's on the screen. This isn't rocket surgery. Put your answer. Click one of those things right there. Okay. All right. There's 75% of you have voted. The rest of you apparently drinking or watching the Blackhawks game. All right. Okay, good. 80% voted. Here we go. Let's share the results. Ladies and gentlemen, 51% of, what is it, 400-ish, 500-ish people in this room, more than half of you are bearish. Look at that. 39% are saying, hey, man, this thing's going to be whipping all over the place. We got 8% bullish and 2% neutral, right? So that should tell you something, that with hundreds and hundreds of people in this room tonight, that the majority of folks are bearish to volatile. I could not agree more. Okay, step 2 in our trade plan, now that we know what we are, what's your target? What are you going to trade? The stock, the ETF, or the index? Now, let me go back a slide real quick. It used to be on the bottom of this slide, and I took it off, but I can always add it back in here. Down here, it used to say, Uncle Wiz's tax tip. I'm going to give you a little bit of a tax tip. But here's your disclaimer. I'm not your tax attorney. I am not your accountant, and I certainly don't want to play one on TV. You, me, people, can get better tax treatment trading an index over an ETF. I will say that again just as slowly. You potentially can get better treatment trading an index instead of an ETF. Do not trade SPY, trade SPX. And if you're sitting there going, I didn't know that, you're welcome. What I potentially saved you in taxes could most likely pay for a lifetime membership here at Top Gun Options. Don't have time to talk about it. You can Google it. You can get into what we call the Ready Room. Once you become a member, you can get in our Ready Room and ask that question, but there's like 9 threads on it. And I have made a lot of people a lot of money when they recognize this. Do not trade an ETF if there's an index. What is the other reason you don't want to trade an ETF if there's an index? Where's all my options brains? I'm going to find out what your options skill here is in a couple minutes. But why? Cheating, you got it. Cheating got it. Assignment, folks. If you are trading an ETF when you could have been trading an index and you blow the damn trade, you can be assigned the shares of the ETF, right? If you're trading an index, the RUT, SPX, any of those, it settles in cash, baby. You want to be trading something that settles in cash and not shares. You screw a trade up one day and you end up, with 4,000 shares of VXX in your portfolio when you could have traded VIX and settled in cash. And I'm going to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, for a fact that when, not if the big one hits, and this might be the big one, you will have zero liquidity in ETFs. I have all these ETFs. That market rolls over. I'm just going to get out of them. No, you're not. No, you're not. The liquidity issues, it's an unspoken, I speak about it. It's an unspoken Wall Street, except at a bar going, oh my God, all these retail traders that are in ETFs. You guys are cordwood. I had a partner back in the day say, retail traders, we use them as cordwood. They're liquidity. Retail traders are our liquidity. How do you feel about that? Jim, Joe, of course the FXI is an ETF. There isn't an index for the China markets that we can trade, folks. The China markets are slowly opening up to us. You can't trade, folks, unless you live in Hong Kong, Shanghai, or whatever, you can't directly trade a Chinese index, folks. So we have ETFs that serve as a good proxy. That's a great catch, guys, but there's your answer. You can't. You can't buy the Shanghai or the whatever, the Hang Seng, whatever. All right, we got to move. If you've been clubbing in the Bahamas for the past 15 minutes of this webinar, sit up and pay attention. This is the most important part of the trade plan and the biggest part that people screw up. Commit criteria. Where did I get those terms? From naval fighter aviation. If I have 4 F-18 Hornets and we're flying and there's a bunch of bad guy Chinese dudes over here, but they're far away and they're at low altitude. Well, we're probably just going to sit here and spin in circles. Okay, well, oh my God, the AWACS just called us. Now these Chinese MiGs are hot, pointing at us. They're climbing in altitude, and our secret squirrels have told us that they are carrying anti-carrier missiles. Well, guess what? They turn towards us, they're carrying those missiles, and they're climbing in altitude. Those three things hit my commit criteria for me to commit my nose at the bad guys and kill them. We literally would have what we call commit criteria in the jet. We'd go through a little, flow chart. Does going down range and doing this thing meet our commit criteria? Yes. Okay. Let's go turn people into hair, teeth, and eyeballs. No. Let's keep spinning in circles. It's the same thing with a trade. Why are you committing capital to this trade? Why are you in it, folks? It's heartbreaking to me. When I travel around the world, the United States, I trade. Oh yeah, well I'm in this Apple trade. Oh great, why are you in it? I like Apple. That's a ridiculous reason. Why are you in this trade? I got an iPhone, and okay, stop talking. Why? Give me 3 to 5 sentences of why you are in this trade and you committed your hard-earned money to it. I call it the cocktail party pitch. If any of you have been in sales, what is this called? It's called the elevator pitch. If you get on an elevator with a guy at the 30th floor by the ground floor, you got 90 seconds to convince this person to buy something, right? It's the same thing, ladies and gentlemen. Why are you committing capital to this trade? By the end of your commit criteria, if I met you in person and you laid 3 to 5 sentences on me, if I don't look at you and go, oh my God, I can't believe I'm not in that trade, you failed. So anytime, listen to me, folks, you just wrote down on a piece of paper 3 to 5 sentences about why you're getting into a trade. You took the money that Uncle Sam didn't take from you and you invested it and you want to make money. You got 3 to 5 sentences. If at any time during the life of that trade, one of those sentence changes, get out. Eject. Now, I covered a trade on Monday that yesterday or today was or is at the eject point. Oh my God, I need to eject. You need to do whatever you need to do. I went back and I read the 3 to 5 sentences as to why I got into this trade. And not only have they not changed, they've gotten more powerful. So I've actually added 2 positions. This is extremely powerful, folks. I got an email. Larry sent me an email. He's like, dude, I need to learn this discipline thing. This gives you discipline, folks, writing this stuff down and going, here's why I'm committing capital. So when you get to a point, we'll talk about profit in a second. I'm talking about if any one of these sentences changes, and I'm talking good too. Let's say these 3 to 5 sentences, I'm not just talking about something bad's happening in your commit criteria. What if something good happens, right? Anytime your commit criteria change, think about ejecting. You'll see when you become a member, when I send text alerts out, I say maybe, and I give a price. I say maybe eject at this price. Why do I say maybe in a text alert? Because of this. I'll give you the price where I think about I might eject, but it's a maybe. Okay? Step 4. Now that we have our strategic mindset, we know what we're targeting, and we have our commit criteria, we can pick our tactic. And ladies and gentlemen, if you learned nothing from me this week, I was a miserable failure, but you should have learned this. There is no such thing as an options tactic, period. All right, now you lost me, Wiz. The Iron Condor is my favorite strategy. No, I'm sorry, there's no such thing as an options strategy. It is a tactic, ladies and gentlemen. You know what a strategy is? It's win the war in Iraq, defeat ISIS. It's a high level in the Top Gun options. Your option strategy might be use Top Gun options to fund my retirement, pay for college, buy a boat in 6 months, buy an airplane like Shrek did. You know what a tactic is? It supports that strategy, folks. So an Iron Condor, a bear call spread, buying calls is tactics, are tactics. A strategy, win the war against ISIS. A tactic, guard this bridge for the next 3 hours and shoot anybody that tries to come over it. Get it? Anytime you go anywhere else and you listen to some dude or lady go, all right, now we're going to talk about this option strategy, get up and leave, because they are clueless about terminology. And terminology is important. I graduated from Top Gun, folks. We had an 8-hour class in words and how to present and get your point across. If you sound like an idiot, you're an idiot. So how do you pick the tactic, Wiz? Well, we already just did 3 steps. What's your strategic mindset? Very bearish. And my commit criteria. China's lying to us, blah, blah, blah. And we'll get to that in a couple minutes about examples of commit criteria. This isn't complex, folks. If you have a basic understanding of options, Wiz, I know if I buy calls, I'm bullish, and I buy puts, I'm bearish. Welcome aboard Top Gun Options. That's your cellular basic level. That's all you need to know. And that's going to be my next question. What is your current level of options experience? What's an option for all my Marine buddies in here? Or how do you spell the word option? I'm a beginner. I know how to buy calls and puts and covered calls. I know what I'm doing. I trade credit spreads, or I'm pretty advanced. I'm doing iron condors, butterflies, reverse iron condor twist with a covered call spritzer. I don't know. I just made that up. Okay, so do me a favor, let me know, because I need to know when we get 50 new people that come into the squadron, if everybody kind of knows what they're doing, I can speed things up a little bit. If people are a little bit new, slowing down is fantastic, folks. I love repeating stuff like there are people who are Jedi Master options traders here who are like, you know what, I needed that refresher. Look at all the airline pilots in this room, folks. We go back once or twice a year to the simulator building and we get ripped apart. Okay. All right. So here's what everybody looks like. What's it? 608 people in here, 19 beginner, 1% wants an option. Great. If you know that buying a call is bullish and buying a put is bearish, you're good to go. So we got a good mix of intermediate to advanced, folks, but the big middle there in the blue is intermediate. That's fantastic. That is good to know. That helps me with all my instruction. Okay. So step 4 is simply the trade. I'm doing a bull put spread, an iron condor, or diagonal, or whatever. Step 5, ladies and gentlemen, of our trade plan is tactical employment. How are we going to put this trade on, right? This is the trade details. Hey, I'm going to sell these calls. I'm going to buy these calls at this price with this range from mid-market. Tonight, I'm going to show you when I look at a trade live in the market, I give a range. Like I'm going to sell this spread for $1.50 plus or minus 10 cents, meaning I'll go up to $1.60 or as low as $1.40, but outside of that, I'm not going to try and get filled on it for today. So I give you a range to do, right? And it's good for that day. Okay. All right. Step 6, mid-course guidance. This is incredibly important. It's almost as important as commit criteria. Why? Does anybody think when I was flying the Hornet that we just dropped a bomb and covered our eyes and go, man, I hope that hits some bad guys? No, that missile, that weapon needed mid-course guidance, right? Now today, GPS, fire and forget and everything like that. But in a trade, you need to sit here in the brief and think through what could happen during the life of this trade, right? So we sit here and talk about how we're going to manage the trade. Let me remind you that what we do at Top Gun Options 4 days a week are called trade briefs. They're not called trade longs, they're called briefs. If any of you have watched on like the Discovery Channel or the History Channel or A&E or something like that, and you've seen a real air-to-air engagement or real combat, most of the time you see it on one of those channels, there's a lot of chatter over the radio, right? I'm going to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that the reason you hear a lot of chatter on those type of shows over the radio is because something didn't go, you ready for this, as briefed. Almost every combat sortie I flew over Iraq, almost nobody said a word. You know why? Because we flew the brief. Pilots in this room will know what I'm talking about. Hey man, fly the brief. The only time you should be coming up over the radio is when, hey guys, something ain't, we didn't talk about this in the brief. So during our briefs, what do? we're going to sit here and ask before we put the trade on, what if? What if this happens? What if that happens? We contingency plan, ladies and gentlemen. I don't figure out what I'm going to do if I get shot at by a surface-to-air missile over Syria when that happens, guys. I already thought through this, sitting on the aircraft carrier in the air conditioning, sipping on my venti upside down caramel macchiato. I chair fly the mission. If I get shot at by a missile, I'm going to put the throttles to idle, put out some chaff and flares. I'm going to visually acquire it. I'm going to barrel it. I go through it. So in the heat of battle, in the heat of trading, I'm not freaking out. I sit here and go, I already talked about this. I'm on it. You guys aren't doing this. How many times in the past couple of weeks, I've been saying this for 10 years at Top Gun Options, before I put a trade on, I say what? There's a distinct possibility during the lifetime of this trade that it might be underwater or showing a loss. Okay? You have to be prepared for those type of things. If you're the type of person that if it immediately, you put on a trade and it's immediately losing money and you're cowering in the corner, sucking your thumb, you're doing it wrong. You didn't do a brief. You didn't sit here and go through your mid-course guidance. Okay? Now, in the briefs, when we're setting up a trade, what do? We have an SOP, standard operating procedure. I want you to all look at this manual over here on the right. Okay, this is the F-18 flight manual. When the F-18 came off the production line, the emergency procedures section was about 3 pages, right? It was a bunch of booger eater engineers who said, well, these might be some emergencies that we can think of. When I left flying the F-18, the emergency procedures section had about 92 pages. Why? We say that this SOP is written in blood. It's kind of macabre, but it's the truth. Okay? So I'm going to share with you, when you become a member, my SOP. Okay, when am I going to eject out of a trade? What am I going to do? Boom, 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 boom. That's part of the discipline. Most of you are like, and I'll ask this. I'm in this Apple trade. It's going really good. I'm like, what's your max potential loss? I just told you it's doing really well. I don't care if it's doing well. How much can you lose? I didn't look at that. Well, you're doing it wrong. When are you getting out? You said it's doing good. Well, I think it's good. I want to make more money on it. Pigs get slaughtered. So I'm going to brief you that the first paragraph of every Navy flight manual, every SOP, has this sentence or so. It says nothing in this manual takes the place of good head work and judgment of the pilot in command. You're going to hear me use that term a lot here at TGO. I'm going to say, hey man, you're the PIC of your portfolio, not me. The F-18 was a single seat jet. I flew my own jet, my instructor flew his jet, and we learned. I was the pilot in command. I signed for the airplane, went down to maintenance control, looked at the book, the maintenance book, and I signed my name and my rank and the date, and I owned the airplane. I can't tell you what to do with your portfolio. I can't reach over near F-18 and grab your stick and throttles and fly your portfolio. I can't. You have to do it. You have to listen to my SOP and go, I don't like risking that much, or I'm going to eject it this way. You have to make this your own. And the folks that have been here for years, everybody has their own SOP, but they started with mine and took it and adjusted it. Step 7, last step. When are we going to get out, folks? I call this the Colin Powell step. Colin Powell, chairman of the Joint Chiefs. Bush the first, ultimate deep state operator. Bush the first, General Powell, I want you to get Iraq out of Kuwait. Yes, sir. Oh, well, hold on, Mr. President. Before you leave, what is victory? When are we leaving? What? Hey, man, I was a young junior officer in Vietnam, and it sucked. When are we leaving? What does victory look like? Does everybody remember this? We kicked them out of Iraq, and we were slaughtering guys in Basra. Remember, it was called the Highway of Death? We were just chewing up Iraqi forces. And guess what? Colin Powell, the president, said, we're done. Does everybody remember Democrats back then? Talk about war hawks. No, we need to go on to Baghdad. No. We have hit the point where in our planning, we said we're going to leave. The same thing in our trading. we're going to cover live, probably tomorrow, we can do it tonight, that, for example, a credit spread outside of 7 days, folks, you can write this down. If it's outside of 7 days, if I'm seeing a 70, 80, or 90% profit on the credit that I took in, if we sell a bull put spread here in a couple minutes as our training, and I bring in $1, if I'm seeing 700 bucks, 800 bucks, or 900 buck, whatever it is, in over a week, close the trade. How many, you don't have to answer this since we have familiar options traders in here, how many of you in a credit spread have been looking at like a 90% profit? And you're like, it's got a couple days to expire and there's like 300 bucks still left on the table I can get. I'm going to go golfing. And you turn a 90% winning trade into a 100% loser. Don't do it. I've done it. Everybody's done it. Stop. You did. Yeah, I've seen a lot of people rogering up in the chat box. Yeah, maybe a couple times, once or twice. Folks, I did this many a time, and I learned that's how you learn not to do it. That's how you come up with an SOP. When you hit your max acceptable loss, and we'll talk about this in just minutes when we do our training. For example, in a credit spread, I just double the credit that I take in. If I take in $1 and this thing starts going against me and it's all the way up at $2, that's when I'm thinking about ejecting. When hit, do it. Dennis, today, exactly. So I'm going to tell you that as the pilot in command, you can sit here. I'm in 2 trades right now for the week. The same thing happened last week. I'm like, the market isn't pricing this thing in. Friday, the market imploded 700 points. I'm going to give you a quick intelligence brief, and I'm going to tell you that tonight, it seems a little like last week where the world's starting to go, maybe they're lying to us, and we might be seeing the top here, folks. It makes 0 sense. Inside, yeah, somebody just asked, sorry, I teased you. Inside of 7 days, if I put a trade on, a credit spread, inside of a week, if I'm seeing 40, 50, 60% profit on the credit that I took in. Remember, folks, pigs get slaughtered, period. Nobody I've known in 27 years of trading has gone broke taking a profit. Tell that to you again. Nobody I know has gone broke taking a profit, folks, period. Don't be the trader that sits here and says, I got out of it yesterday, but I could make more today. You're going to be miserable. My dad, love my dad, miss him every day of my life. He always used to tell me, he's like, hey, Matthew, somebody's always got a bigger boat, right? And when I moved to South Florida, I literally figured that out. That was true. But if you can't be happy sitting on your boat, having a glass of wine, looking at sunset, and some 300-foot boat comes by and you're like, man, I wish I had that boat, you're going to be miserable, period. I'm not here to be your yoga namaste instructor, folks. But I'm going to tell you that I've seen all sorts of misery, folks. You do not want to be swinging for the fences all the time. Nice, solid base hits, okay? That's what you want to strive for. People who get up to the plate and swing every time. You might hit a couple over the fence. You're going to strike out a hell of a lot more often than not. That means from when I place the trade. So if I place a trade and all of a sudden it's a week past. So this is when you get airborne, guys. That wasn't like from expiration. That was from when you placed it. Okay. All right, real quick, folks. Japan. Look at this headline. Japan stocks jump as S&P 500 surges to record high, despite virus fears. Market went to record highs following unconfirmed reports of breakthroughs in the development of a drug for the disease. Are you high? The World Health Organization. So, look, Reuters, Wednesday, as we were asleep last night, Reuters said a research team at Zhejiang University had found a drug to treat people infected by the virus. The futures went up 300 points. Hours later, the WHO came out and said, that's bullshit. It's a lie, ladies and gentlemen. Wall Street Journal starting to sound the alarms here. Wuhan coronavirus hospitals are turning away all but the most severe cases, ladies and gentlemen. They are turning away people at hospitals. Medical staff overwhelmed as more Chinese cities restrict movement. Wait, hold on, Wiz. Apple's and their suppliers are going back to work in a couple days. What? Folks, I can't. The fact that I finally have seen the videos I showed you 3 days ago on national news is insane. A 1,000-bed facility in Wuhan opened on or completed on Sunday, and they're building a second one with 1,600 people. I am stunned. This Japanese ship has 3,700 people on it. 10 of them have tested positive for this, which means 3,700 people are sick. I can't. I'm beside myself, ladies and gentlemen. Coronavirus will whack 2% global GDP growth. Goldman came out with this after market close. Of course they did, because it was a short squeeze into the close. Slash, I came back from Hong Kong with a cough and urgent care in South Carolina refused to see me out of fear. Holy shit, dude. No way. Oh, man. Well, there's a firsthand account, folks. So while the market today soared to just high short of, headlines of coronaviruses contain euphoria. Unconfirmed speculation that drugs are in the pipeline. Did you not hear last week the rebound on drugs were in the pipeline? The guys who were like, we have a cure. It'll take 6 months in animals and a year in humans. But it's a cure. It's a lie. What does the Chinese GDP shock mean for the rest of the world? You can't even do the math. Folks, first of all, you can't do this math. Goldman, nice job. This is Goldman, folks. If you got $100 million, you can go invest and be a private wealth client at Goldman. This is why I love Zero Hedge. They get these reports and they give them to you. I got buddies at Goldman Sachs Asset Management, GSAM. I get this stuff, but this is awesome. If Goldman is telling this to their private wealth clients, what do you think actually is happening? Do you not know that there is a revolving door between Goldman Sachs and the government? Who is it? Hank Paulson, Treasury? You name the Treasury Secretary or the Fed Chief or people in government, ladies and gentlemen. PW, I can read Chinese. Wuhan, 4 weeks ago, their hospital turned away 15,000 people who were having fever and told to go home to quarantine. That was from Wuhan's major speech live video. Holy crap. Wall Street Journal, again after hours. Coronavirus hits shipping as China port traffic slides. Alphaliner is a big maritime data projection company. Trade could cut 6 million containers from shipping business this year, ladies and gentlemen. Not going to bore you with the details. What am I getting at here? Does anybody think that humans are buying this market? I'm telling you, I know a lot of humans, and nobody is. I got two buddies who they're not blown out. They took massive losses over the past 2 days. They were short as hell. Look at this thing. Implosion, dead cat bounce, implosion, dead cat bounce, short the hell out of it through the 50. Pop. This is a massive short squeeze, ladies and gentlemen. The fact that Fox News finally showed, well, I briefed you on this earlier today. The WHO had to come out and say that China's full of shit. They, ladies and gentlemen, have been kissing China's ass for 2 weeks. That they're doing awesome and everything's great and yay, China. They literally had to come out today and it was a whisper. It wasn't like breaking news, like the WHO's having a press conference and China's lying about having the futures had a rip your face off rally because some dude at some university in China said they have a cure. And the WHO had to come out and say, there isn't one. There's something very strange in the latest numbers. This was at 7:20 tonight. The latest Chinese official coronavirus numbers came out. You ready for this? What they showed is that the total number of deaths jumped by the biggest daily total since this thing started. What the Chinese government is reporting is exponentially rising. Surprisingly, a welcome modest decline. So here's the confirmed stuff. Look at what China just did. Explosion, and it flatlined. The number of people under observation rose to just 186,000, which is only 800 cases higher than the day before. Why is this bizarre? This chart makes it clear. Look at the highlighted box down here, ladies and gentlemen. Tell me who in this room believes this. That. I'm giving you the info, folks. You do with it what you think you need to do. This is absolute insanity. They're lying to you. They have Americans. Look at this. The Wuhan crematorium is inundated with coronavirus infected corpses, folks. I briefed you earlier today. There is a smog over Wuhan. They are burning these bodies, folks, and I told you that they're not allowing U.S. folks to go do autopsies or to see the bodies. Folks, you can't. This is the Black Plague. You can't believe this is going on. But I gave this out today. If you're new, because one of my buddies said, hey, come join us tonight. I'm not going to do this now because we have to talk tactics and training. Please read this article and look at these videos. It's in the chat box. This dude, kind of like a self-journalist, he ran an interior design business. He decided to hop on his bike and drive around to the 5 hospitals in Wuhan. See for yourself. Fox News finally put these videos up. The dude was arrested the other night, taken to a police station, and you were never gonna hear from this guy again. And then what happened? Where is it? Down here. They started being nice to me. Look at this. Why? Because these got on the internet and they're around the world, ladies and gentlemen. So they didn't make this guy disappear and kill him. Look at it's insane. There was a baby born in China that tested positive for this thing. So, what are we going to talk about? Other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, how was the play? I'm telling you, man, my buddies on staffs, my buddies at the Pentagon, when I get a thumbs up in response to one of my videos or something like that, I know I'm targeting. I know what I'm saying is in the ballpark. This thing was a weaponized bio experiment that got out of Wuhan, and they were playing with AIDS with it too to try and make it some freaking super virus. If you're China and you want to kill a lot of people, Americans, you're going to launch a nuke? No, because we're going to vaporize you too. You're going to attack us with tanks and airplanes in your one aircraft carrier? No, because we're going to kill you. Absolute insanity. You have all the videos, Peter? Exactly. No, Rick, I don't agree with that. They do. My buddies are like, the Chinese are going ape shit. They do want to find a cure. It's going to kill. And I'm telling you, I briefed you on this last week. All of those Uyghurs, the ethnic Uyghurs, the Muslims in China, they're all in internment camps, folks. I have heard from some little birdies that it has hit those camps. Those people are like at Auschwitz, man, and not to take away from the 6 million Jews that were killed, but the conditions. You think those Uyghurs are living in the Four Seasons? Larry, those vids are hard to watch. I'm with you, dude. I watch these. People are standing in the hospital and they just collapse, dead. Dude walks up, puts a blanket over him. Next, and then that body's dragged to a crematorium. Do you think that death was reported? These videos are incredibly hard to watch. Why am I scaring the hell out of you? The market's at record highs. I'm going to say what I started with, and then we're going to take a look at a trade and talk through a credit spread. If you don't know what's going on, you have a question mark. Remember what I said the other day, folks. How many of you, let me get a show of hands, how many of you have a broker that lets you trade off the left side of a chart? You don't have to say anything because nobody. You can't trade off the left side of a chart. Where you make your money is on the right side of a chart. And we have to project our thoughts forward in space and time to try and influence our portfolios for max profit. So, but if there's a question mark over here, like, hey man, I heard you, Wiz, the market can remain irrational longer than we can stay solvent, then do nothing. If there's a small fraction in here, I think it was 1% of us, maybe like 6 people out of hundreds and hundreds of people in here, and you're bullish, hell man, buy some S&P 500 calls. If you got a lot of bearish positions in your portfolio, buy some S&P 500 calls. This thing can keep going up with algos. I guarantee you, when I put my little head on the pillow tonight and Asian and China opens, they're going to be dumping more liquidity in. Do you not understand when the government does this? Unless they run out of ink and paper, the hangover, folks, is what I'm talking about. Their GDP is getting crushed. If this thing gets worse than what they're telling us, which I know for a fact it is, this is going to end horrifically. Let me put my little asterisk on the screen. I want to be wrong. I don't think we are. February is one of the most volatile months in the market. We just had a monster run. Why did we also have a monster run? Well, one of it was FOMO, fear of missing out. A lot of portfolio managers had to pack their portfolios in the last quarter since they sucked last year. The other was POMO, permanent open market operations. Can somebody tell me why the Fed cut interest rates here and here? I don't care if Donald Trump said we needed to cut rates. I, for the past 2 years, have said the Fed needs to raise rates. But they didn't. They pumped QE4, didn't call it. So we had FOMO, we had POMO, and we had what? Phase one. Phase one does not exist anymore. That nice ceremony where the president hailed to the chief, and here's the Chinese vice premier Liu He, and we're signing this agreement. It's over. Do you think with China, their GDP imploding through 6%, they're going to be buying ag products from a guy in Wisconsin? They could care less about buying stuff from us. I already talked to my buddy, who's my friend who used to date their Federal Reserve type of chairman. And she's like, they've heard from the Chinese that they ain't buying anything from the United States, period. Okay. So, Greg, I get what you're saying. Why not give it a little more time like your FXI trade? Well, guys, remember, we did a burner trade on FXI. So one trade was what? A bear call spread out to Friday, and the other was what? I bought puts out to the middle of February. I absolutely am convinced, folks. Exactly, Rick. So, folks, at the end of the day, they're going to run out of ammo. I mean, technically, they can't, right? Unless they run out of ink and paper, they're going to print money and keep injecting liquidity. But that's what I've told you, ladies and gentlemen. The Fred Sanford, the big one, Lamont, you big dummy, is going to happen when they're still firing and the market loses faith and confidence in central banks. Right now, we're all drunk. I don't think I've used this term this week. Right now, folks, we are all high. I'm not, but the market is high on hopium. Central banks, ladies and gentlemen, cutting interest rates and pumping money into the markets did this. What can they do when it does that? Nothing. Okay? So, it's great. Whoever just asked, yeah, man, clearly you have got to be buying FXI puts. This, folks, this dead, we called it a dead bat bounce the other day or yesterday. Implosion, bounce, implosion, bounce, implosion. Everything is all clear? No, for the love of God and all things holy. Absolutely. Okay. Gary, do not trade VIX if you're being long. Folks, real quick, and I have a paper, the difference between VIX and VXX. Let's look at VXX real quick. VXX, folks, is going to zero. What are you talking about? Look at the damn chart. The VXX, based on math, will be at zero. Look at what it's doing. What was it, 2 years ago, they had to do a reverse 4-for-1 split. There's things called backwardation and contango in VXX. Do not, if you want to be long or short volatility, do not use the VXX ever again in your entire life, period. But wait, that's a separate subject. Maybe we can talk about this. PW, let me read what he says, because he's apparently got contacts in China. PW, what's your background? Right now in Wuhan, people are infected but could not get into hospital. Number are increased to 159,000 2 days ago. Those were who originally got turned away and told to quarantine at home. People died on the way to the hospital. One local reporter videotaped a couple of streets he was driving around and counted bodies in a white van with black on it. It is designated van taking the bodies. His words was all over the sky and ground. In Chinese, describe a lot of bodies. Those bodies were not on the official number. Only the people who died in the hospital gets count. There's firsthand experience, folks. Absolutely. Kathy, no, Christine, that's coming from somebody who's in this webinar who has family and friends in China. That's first or second hand account. Kathy, do you not think that when it becomes indisputable that China accidentally let a bioweapon loose, everyone and their brother will be wanting their pound of flesh? Ladies and gentlemen, Donald J. Trump, no matter what he says, wants to be reelected. How, this is delicate, how can we have indisputable proof of a bioweapon accidentally getting loose in Wuhan? Donald J. Trump is not going to say that. Xi Jinping's a friend of mine. We play golf. Great friend, huge trade deal. Nobody does deals better than me. If the president of the United States went on national TV and said the Chinese accidentally let a bioweapon out and things are bad, the market will be at zero. I'm not shitting you, folks. You want to talk about a black swan event? PW, I originally grew up in China, immigrated to the United States about 40 years ago. I have about 200 people in China, and we're on the WeChat group. Oh yeah, that's right. That's how this got around, guys. This was all sent around the world via a WeChat group. There you go, folks. We're listening to first. We got a guy in this room. Good. Well, dude, you just confirmed everything that we're doing. So Kathy, I get your point, folks. And you know for a fact, there's no way in hell Xi Jinping is going to come out on national TV and say, hey man, this was a bio experiment gone wrong and millions of you are going to die. You think Tiananmen Square was bad? This would be the end of the Chinese regime. These people being thrown into vans and stuff like that, knowing they're about to die. Well, actually, they don't have a Second Amendment, so I guess it wouldn't be a fair fight. It would be another Tiananmen Square. So, Kathy, we're taking a lot of time on this issue, and the reason I'm doing it is because we are at we look at that, a little poke above record highs. We hit record highs, and then this happened. If you think the all clear is sounded, buy stocks, buy options. If you are listening to all of this stuff, I'm telling you, folks, I live this stuff every day. I have not. Finally, the national news is showing the videos of this, and for the first time since this thing started, Fox is like, I think the Chinese, looking at these videos, maybe the Chinese are lying to us. I told you last week they're lying to us, folks. I have a buddy who was a White House fellow, F-16 pilot. He did his White House fellowship with the head of human service. He's got CDC buddies, and when the CDC is freaking out, folks, you need to be freaking out. Okay, so enough. We got to get going. PW, last official update confirmed, 28,065 infected are waiting for test to confirm. You need to add those two numbers together. That is the official number. Holy crap. Yikes. Well, Arthur, it's a good question. That's something we could talk about over beer. If it comes out that the Chinese, if it's just overwhelming that the Chinese government is like, holy crap, this was an accident, please forgive us. Who knows, man? Maybe the Chinese military finally turns around and says, you know what, it's time to give this thing back to the people. PW, that's why I know it was about 50,000 more last week. Guys, I covered this, man. Last week we had world-renowned epidemiologists saying, here's the math of it. I showed you this last week, folks. I showed you a chart of the math. They're like, by this time next week, it's linear. There will be 250,000 infected, blah, 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 blah. Nope, none of it. That's not happening. It's physically impossible. So enough. Let's do some quick training because this is absolutely insane. Karen, yes, so the accidental Tennyson reports looked to be right. Tennyson accidentally put up almost to a body, Karen. It was supposed to be 250. They were like at, I don't know, 253, whatever the Tennyson report said. So either China is telling us the absolute truth and world epidemiologists are wrong, or it's the other way around. World epidemiologists are right and they are wrong. So anyway, and if we were doing shots every time I said this, we'd all be drunk by now. The market can remain irrational longer and you can stay solvent. I sold another bear call spread out to Friday on FXI, folks. It's below the 50-day moving average and we're getting a rebound up here. After hours, it's up a little bit. It makes 0 sense to be up here. If you don't have a bear call, so we covered this the other day, but this is a good thing to cover. If you just listen to all that and you're like, man, I'm bearish on FXI, which is the iShares China large cap ETF. What could you do? Buy puts. And like we talked about the other day, I'd go out to the middle of February because if this thing is going to get worse, it's going to be sooner rather than later, meaning the information. We got cruise ships quarantined. We have we got Americans on military bases being guarded by dudes with guns and they're not allowed to leave. Okay. Brian, we're going to talk about that. We can, let me finish here. So let's put this, let's go, let me put a B here. I'm bearish. If you're bearish on FXI, buy some puts. If you're RB, really bearish, let's sell a bear call spread. And we will go out to like next week. We'll look at next Friday. All right, so here's your little China checklist. Actually, there's a step 0 up here, and you can't see it. You know what it says? I'm going to write it in here. It says cash or do nothing. Step 0 with China and FXI and this coronavirus is, dude, I don't know what the hell is going to happen, so I'm just going to sit here. Fantastic decision. Cash is a position. Cash is a 1 delta trade. It's there, right? If anything, I'd get in gold. But step 0 is don't do anything, right? The hippopotamus oath. Do no harm, right? So I'm bearish. Buy some damn FXI puts. Step 2, sell a bear call spread. Let's take a look at that. That's what we'll do our training on real quick. Step 3, ladies and gentlemen, I'm really, really bearish. 3 R's would be a burner trade. We covered that the other day. You can watch the replay. I absolutely think this is a fantastic trade. I am going to tell you right now, I could be completely wrong. The Chinese government are telling us the truth. Everything's fantastic. And Wiz, you panicked me for nothing. Absolute possibility. But actually, there is no possibility. The Chinese government, folks, you can't even get on the internet there, man. Did you see, not to go into it, I think it was on Zero Hedge or some other site, the way that they tracked the one patient literally everywhere, like they where knew his cell phone was, his face on, they could tell every step of the way that where this guy went, and they're going to get people that like were around him. Their surveillance state is absolutely insane. So this ain't getting out, folks. That's why this guy, I'm surprised, is alive. The only reason he's alive is because when he was at the police station, somebody called and said, that dude's famous around the world. He can't go missing. Oh, okay. Well, here's a Diet Coke, man. Hey, oh, we love you. They were getting ready to clip this dude. So, but And here you go. Look at this. Well, I'm kind of, I should formally be going through my trade plan. I've done it so many times. I mentally go through it. This can keep going up, folks, just based on liquidity. Okay. So I'm going to cover this. So that's why step one, that just buying some puts might be a good idea, right? Because God, you can't fight that liquidity. But I thought it was interesting the other day when they put 22 billion in, the stock market still went down 8%. Okay. So a bear call spread, what is that? It's also called a credit spread. Where would I look? Well, first of all, this red line right here, these are Keltner channels, and there are my settings, 50 and 5. There's the top of a Keltner channel, there's the bottom. Look at where we topped out, right at the top of the Keltner channel, we imploded. Look at that. Everybody see that? It literally hit the bottom of the Keltner channel. And look at that little drill bit down there. It hit the bottom of the Keltner channel. Look at the red line here. The red line is the 50-day moving average of FXI, right? I think even if they keep pumping liquidity in, this has got to be resistance here. Okay. And remember, folks, they've already done a bunch of the things that they did in 2015. They've already banned short selling. You got to buy, blah, blah, blah. They've done all this stuff where in the past, implosion, they inject money, implosion, they inject money, and ban short selling, implosion, and then it bottomed out after just exhaustion selling. This is what FXI looked like the last time that their markets had panic. And it wasn't on a pandemic, folks. We are in uncharted territory, literally. Let me read this because this guy's given us some good intel here. My friend said the economic impact is huge. I have a friend who is the head of China Bank of a large city. Bank only allowed to partially open and only has one person, the most junior person at window, to do what is necessary. Only partial of supermarket stays open for foods, every major city and even countryside. Each family only allows one person to go food shopping every 2 days. Oh my God, man. It's a movie, folks. This is Hollywood couldn't do this. Yeah, it does. It sounds like each person in or out of apartments has to sign in and out. It does sound like an airline. Who's the most junior person? You're going to go work the window. So what is this 50-day moving average on FXI? 42 and a half, 42.60. If we're going to implode, it's going to be relatively soon. So let's go out to Feb 14. You could go out to Feb 22, but like I said, if this thing's going to dead bad bounce again, it's going to be soon rather than later. So going out to next Friday is right in my wheelhouse. 42 and a half was the 50-day moving average, which should turn into resistance. Okay. There's your $20,000 technical analysis course. So I would look to sell the February 14th 42 and a half calls. That's me saying I don't think by next Friday the FXI is above 42 and a half. All right, Mr. Smarty Pants, what if you're wrong and FXI just keeps going up? Well, that's why we're going to buy some upside calls so our risk is limited, right? 11 cents, we're probably going to have to do maybe 150 contracts. Let me just check the risk out real here. Yeah, it's a little north, but it's a high probability trade. All right, so let me do the training here, and I'm going to give you two choices in a couple minutes. So, Rick, it's all about how effective the quarantine is. Well, Rick, remember, and I've learned a lot about this in the past 2 weeks. I ain't no epidemiologist, but I've been reading voraciously. If Susie's like, come to bed, please. I'm like, no, Asia's open. I got to. Quarantines, I'm learning, can make it worse. When you shut off 75 to 100 million people from doctors and hospitals and are only taking the worst cases, the quarantine can actually make the thing into a wave 2 and wave 3 and make it worse. Not to dig too deep on that, but Google that. I was shocked. I'm like, that makes sense. Jeff, you're reading my mind. We'll talk about that in about 30 or 3 minutes. So I'd look to sell 150 of next Friday's 42.5 calls. Why 150, Wiz? Give me 2 minutes and I'll give you that answer. And buy the 43s. I'd look to, the market's closed, guys, so this is kind of theoretical right now. I'd look to try and get filled on this trade at 11 cents, plus or minus a penny. I wouldn't go lower than 10, and I probably would go up to 12 tomorrow. So I'm bearish on FXI, the iShares China ETF. I'm using calls, and it's a spread. This tactic is called a bear call spread. Now, if you're sitting here going, well, you're bringing in a credit, isn't it also called a credit spread? Yeah, but I don't like an options world where a tactic can be called like 3 things. Call it what it is. I'm bearish, I'm using calls, and it's a spread. But yeah, it's a credit spread. We're getting paid $1,700 to do this trade out to next Friday. Okay. While we're on this screen, let's talk about the bad. Well, let's talk about the good first of all. I want all 11 cents. I want this 11 cents, all 11 pennies to go in my pocket. By next Friday, technically, I want this thing to expire, quote, worthless. I want all 11 pennies. If FXI starts going up for some reason or keeps going up, this trade is going to increase, and that's bad. We want it to go to 0, the credit. If the credit's going up, that ain't good for us. So if the credit we're taking in is 11 cents, you know what my maybe eject point is? I do simple math for political science majors like me and Marines. I double the credit that I take in. So I would maybe eject out of this trade at 22 cents. Why are you saying maybe, Wiz? That means you showed up late and didn't listen earlier. Maybe means I open my book, I go to the page that has my FXI commit criteria. I just gave you 20 minutes of commit criteria, but if any of those have changed, hey, they found a cure and they tested it on a monkey and a dude and it's fixed. Get out, eject. Double the credit that you take in is where you should potentially eject. Again, I say maybe. If this thing is at 22 cents and I reread my commit criteria and I'm like, oh my God, man, not only are they still valid, it's a hell of a lot worse, then I'm not ejecting. That's the paragraph at Top Gun Options where it says, nothing in this SOP takes the place of good head work and judgment of the trader in command. You. I always smirk when I say this term, but don't prematurely eject. People like, hey, it hit my eject point, I immediately ejected. I'm like, did you read your commit criteria again? No. Well, then you prematurely ejected. Don't prematurely eject. Don't be that guy. All right. So look at this. We haven't even looked at the analytics of this trade yet. I'm going to keep reading these. Lots of small and middle business are going bankrupt. They simply can't sustain without being open. And only government and large companies can survive. But city like Shanghai, most of the companies we talk not allowed to open at least 2 more weeks and waiting for further notice. Depends on the virus contained situation. U.S. markets do not know all the detailed information yet. I think market really has discounted China virus effects. Thank you, PW. Just confirmed. I know, folks, the VIX is at 15 with one of the largest economies in the world paralyzed. Negative. PW, no, I don't have, I have Messenger. I don't have WeChat. I'd love to see all this stuff, man. This is great. This is great intel, man. All right, let's press on here. Now, as I jokingly said the other day, I'm going to turn into a Catholic nun because when I click this button up here that says snapshot analysis, I'm going to turn into Sister Mary Matthew. And I'm going to crack your knuckles if you don't look where I tell you to look. So I want you to look at the sad face, right? Or the angry, let's call it sad. I wouldn't be angry. But look at the sad face right now. Max potential loss. $5,900 is the most you could lose on this trade ever. Whoa, that's a little, folks, my SOP, these model portfolios are based on 100 grand. Wiz, I got 2 grand. Wiz, I got $1 million. Wiz, I got 100 million. Wiz, I got 50 grand. It's none of my business. I run these portfolios based on if it's not if it is $100,000. My SOP says I don't want to risk more than 5% of the model portfolio on any one trade. Where'd you come up with 5%? That's me, folks. Over a quarter of a century I've been doing this. I learned as a young aviator that I didn't know what my max risks in trades were sometimes. And Susie would be like, hey, there's some guy from TD Ameritrade on the phone about a margin call. Ah, shit. So this is a nice number. If I get blown out of a trade, I still can live to fight another day. This might not be you. You might be 2.5%. You might be 20%. I don't know. You have to figure it out. Okay. So where did the $5,900 come from, Wiz? 150 contracts. Don't want to risk 5,800. Wiz, I only want to risk 2,500 bucks. Okay, Einstein, trade 75 contracts. Wiz, I'm rich and I don't mind risking 10 grand on this trade. Okay, Copernicus, you trade 300 contracts. I can't tell you what to do. I'm not going to tell you what to do. Okay. So 5,800 bucks. Once you become an aviator and a trader and you go, check, I acknowledge this. It's just like a checklist. Max potential loss, 5,800 bucks. Check, meaning I acknowledge this. So if I wake up one day and this thing is at max loss, you knew it. Now, once you go, I acknowledge my risk, you can bring your eyes up to Mr. or Mrs. Gender neutral happy face and say, okay, 1,700 bucks. I can make 1,700 bucks in a week and a half. And using at the money volatility in FXI options at the close, look at that. There's a 77% probability of making max profit in this trade. There's almost an 80% probability of at least making something. Why do I love credit spreads? 3 out of 4 ways we make money on this trade. There's only one way we lose money on this trade. Everybody see this dotted line right here? That is the current price of FXI. The only way this loses money if FXI goes up and through the break even and just keeps climbing. That is a possibility. Listen to me. There's a 15% probability that happens. That's pretty low. Well, not if it happens, then it was 100%. So what are the 3 ways we make money, Wiz? FXI goes down, FXI just kind of hangs out where it is, and FXI goes up but stays below the break even right there. 3 out of 4 ways we can make money on this trade. We also like being the house, folks. I always tell people about the Ferrari dealership. When I lived down in Fort Lauderdale, I could see it from my place. When a dude went in there having his midlife crisis, they love guys like that, right? Hey, and here's 250 grand for this Ferrari. Okay, great. Soon as the guy peeled out of the parking lot, it was worth 200 grand. If he did a U-turn down the street and came back in and said, hey, can you buy this back? My wife told me to bring it back. Sure, I'll buy it for 150 grand. What? I just paid Yeah, exactly. That's theta. That's time decay. You want to be the house, folks. Casinos don't look the way they look because they're charities or they give away money. You want to be the house. You want theta, you want time decay. As the life of this trade goes on, let's look at the money that you make. As the life of this trade goes on, you make money exponentially, and then it drops off like rate of expiration because you're right there. Theta, the Greek, that's what it looks like. And if the FXI is unchanged, it just kind of hangs out one day, you make money. Unchanged on the day equals time decay. That's why I can't stand debit spreads. You're driving around, enjoy your Ferrari, man. It's losing money. Right? So, let's talk real quick because Jeff's a smart guy. Jeff and I did coaching for a while. The dude's he's a young Jedi becoming a Jedi master. I'm going to tell you folks that I would most likely do this one, the 42 and a half. The middle of this Keltner channel is in between. Look, it's at 42, 34, almost right in the middle between 42 and 42 and a half. I cannot reasonably conclude that what happened last Thursday and Friday is going to happen again. When Asian markets close Friday and our markets close, do you think people are going to be buying stocks with both hands? Tesla is down like 17%. You know what they came out today and said? Oh yeah, those Model 3s, those numbers we told you in earnings, yeah, they're all made in Shenzhen or wherever it was, and nobody's going to work there for the next month. Implosion. Tesla might be a canary in the coal mine, folks, and is dropping dead before this market does. That's a lot of mumbling about what I'm trying to tell you here is that maybe the 42 and a half is a little bit more aggressive. Let's take a look at the risk. This one risks, bam, right at my SOP, risking about $5,000 to make $2,400 in a week and a half. Me, I like this trade more. Okay, hell, I like the 41 and a half, 42 out the Friday, and the other one I did Monday, right? It went right up to this dead bat bounce, and it went kind of like the market today, folks. Look at this right here. It popped through. That's algos and black boxes, folks. The S&P 500 did the same thing right here. This is not human. I talked to my buddy today who runs an algo hedge fund. He's on his boat. He's like, dude, this makes no sense, but I'm making money. He makes money until he doesn't, until the thing turns around, and then they have to untweak the screws in the black box and do it in the other direction. So everybody, ladies and gentlemen, that I talk to knows that we're playing musical chairs right now, and the music's going to stop. Okay. Wiz, you will love this. This from an email from the VA. If you think you are symptomatic, the VA sent this out. The VA, if you think you're symptomatic with coronavirus, call before visiting your VA medical center. Holy crap. So now the Veterans Affairs Administration is emailing vets to not come in if you're feeling symptomatic. Folks, are you listening to me? The United States of America's government is using the military to forcibly keep people on military bases. Do you think if this was some freaking little flu or cold, you'd be on Marine Corps Air Station Miramar guarded? This was a freaking bioweapon, guys. Does anybody, you did hear this from me, and I'll own this. I will tell you that a couple birdies have told me that some of the people who are at Marine Corps Air Station Miramar, I'm going to use the word voluntarily. They most likely were. Do you not think that people from alphabet agencies are not on these military bases testing these people? Not just testing them, hey, do you feel flu-like, but testing, taking their blood to see what the hell this bioweapon is, folks. They are on a military installation for a reason. Yeah, a bunch of veterans are telling me they all got that same email. Holy crap. Martin, what does Canada have to say about it being stolen? They have been, Martin, the fact that the cuck of Canada hasn't come out and said, oh my God, that's an absolute falsehood and lie, should tell you something. Just Google it, man. See what Canada's saying. They haven't said a word. Folks, you got to know when Xord came out ordering all DoD personnel that are in temporary duty or leave status to leave China immediately. All right, guys. Well, this thing is coming. It seems like we're getting a little bit more fast and furious with the information here. So maybe I was early Monday with some of this stuff and getting bearish, but this is insanity. What did I tell you earlier today? Now CNBC has this posted. What did I tell you about the Japanese cruise ship? 10 people on a cruise ship have tested positive. There's 37 freaking hundred people on that ship. 10 of them have it. That means 3,700 people. You heard that? Where did you? Yes, thank you. You're welcome. Now it's on the front page of CNBC. It's funny, folks, that many of my current members are like, dude, I don't listen to the news. I get my news from you. What's oh my God, no kidding. Yeah, PW, it does sound like, well, this sounds like the old Chinese communist government, man. They are around. I've seen videos. Uh, a buddy of mine, well, I'll leave that one alone. I've seen videos other than these of People's Liberation Army forces and guns and marching, and this is ugly, folks. Can you believe this headline? Susie, I'm not a cruise ship person. I've done cruises before, and they were on aircraft carriers. Cruise ships are disgusting to me. They're germ factories. Now, can you imagine being on this cruise ship, folks? You want to talk about a panic? Holy shit, folks. There's a cruise ship with 10 infected people on it. Where's Graham? Graham, are you in here? Are you awake? Graham's down in Australia. Australian Prime Minister, economic impact is going to be very significant. That is China's Australia's largest trading partner. It's not the United States, folks. It's Australia. Beijing City bans group meals. Holy shit, man. And oh, by the way, you're not going to be able to eat. Millions of chickens in China are being wiped out. Oh my, so hold on, guys. I missed this word. It's 10 more cases. I told you this morning, it was this morning I told you that there was 10 people sick on a cruise ship with coronavirus. It's 10 more. Holy Christ, folks, look at this. Now it's 20 on this passenger liner. Does anybody think it's going to get smaller? Oh my God, man. This is insanity. Joseph, you nailed it, man. They're breathing recycled air on a cruise ship. It's like being on an airliner. And oh, by the way, the dude that was in the food buffet just coughed all over the beef stroganoff. Oh my God, ladies and gentlemen, I'm stunned. Japan stocks lead gains as Asian markets shrug off virus fears. So I've gone way too long tonight, guys. We'll talk more about this live tomorrow, but remember, if you have a question mark over here, do nothing. Cash is a position. It is a one delta position. And listen to me, you're not going to miss out on anything. If you don't sign up and become a member, you will. What am I getting at? If the market keeps doing this and all of a sudden, oh my God, Donald Trump just said this was a bioweapon, and we will, it'll have to be quick trading. But what I'm saying is that, kind of bad to use the ship analogy, the ship really hasn't sailed. Okay, this was violent last week. If we get another violent one, we'll still be able to get into bearish positions because there's not going to be a bottom. Okay, so step one, do nothing. Like the Hippocratic Oath, right? Do no harm. Do no harm to your portfolio by doing nothing. Second thing you can do, buy puts on FXI. This is absolute insanity. PW, I appreciate all your intel that you're sending me in the chat box. Look at this. Tesla shares crater 17% after market close. Tesla began rolling out the Model 3 vehicles from its Shanghai Gigafactory in January. It's February and that factory's closed. Tesla. So guys, it's about to get absolutely insane. I can be absolutely wrong, man. Absolutely wrong. Okay. So this is going to be bad. So Corey, yeah, shoot an email to support. Okay. Confirmed world count total now 28,223. Yeah. Guys, I absolutely would be. Tomorrow at the open. I'm buying FXI puts. I am buying. I can't. One more time before we go. The market FXI can remain irrational longer than I can stay solvent. So when in doubt, do nothing. But I don't have doubt, folks. The only doubt that I have is that the market is when the market. It's all about timing, folks, right? Okay. This was one of the best, not best, but look at that short squeeze, guys. In 3 days, this thing has gone straight up. That's not people. That's machines. And until they become aware and kill all of us, they do stuff like that. And then they do this if it's really that bad. Okay. Yeah, I'll put the link up real quick. But folks, listen to me. Donald Trump, the Secretary of Defense, Xi Jinping, everybody can be talking on top secret secure lines going, man, this cannot get out that this happened or that this is that bad. I don't know how we ignore this anymore. My God, Tamara is 30 miles away from one in Wisconsin. Wisconsin! We have hundreds of Americans on military bases under gun. Ain't no people walking to the main gate at Marine Corps Air Station Miramar going, hey, I got an Uber, I'm leaving. No, you're not. I am. You can't detain me here. Yeah, we can. It's a federal order, folks. I never thought in my lifetime I'd see Americans being kept on military bases because of a disease. Right? So, Chris, how do we really know the increase is due to algorithms? There are plenty of people on TV who seem to be doing it. Chris, I'm talking about personal experience. I talk to institutional folks. I talk to hedge fund managers. I have a buddy who runs a massive family office that is bigger than most hedge funds. Nobody I talk to is buying. Remember, folks, the people sitting on CNBC talking about buying. Chris, I don't know who you're talking about. I watched Power Lunch today and some other I watch Bloomberg. I hate Bloomberg. I watch Bloomberg because I have to. I watch Fox Business and I watch CNBC. There was a lot of people on CNBC today who finally did the whole, I wouldn't be a buyer of equities here. Where are you putting new money to work? I'm telling you for a fact, I know that most of this is algos because my buddy is printing money because of it. And he, at the same time, is saying it makes no sense to me. But guess what? When the ones and zeros tell my things to buy, they buy. When they don't, they don't. Folks, remember, when the New York Federal Reserve pumps money into the markets, into banks, they see it. I got buddies who are like plumbed into the same wires. They see the buying action. Folks, this is ones and zeros. There's no people involved in this. How many of you, after this very long brief tonight, it wasn't a brief, want to buy stocks? Ron, Travis Air Force Base is 20 minutes away. So thrilled. I wouldn't be taking that BART train anywhere, man. So it's bad. So Chris, I am telling you, based on my 27 years and my contacts and the people I've been talking to for the past 3 days, I've gotten folks. It's not only Chris. It's not only algos that are doing this. It's a short squeeze. I got two buddies who are on. I don't want to use that terminology, life support, but they are getting schwacked being short. Look at the market action. Implosion. Hey, we found a cure. No, we're not. It's a global pandemic. No, everything's fine. Where did everybody get short, folks? This thing touched the 50-day moving average. If we hit that moving average with any airspeed, it was going to be down to the 200. So what did people do here? They got short. Like, holy crap, this sounds really bad. And it got pushed higher. As soon as it bounced off the 50-day here, if you were short, you got obliterated. So, Chris, if you got buddies who are buying stocks here, God bless them. I think they're insane. The only stocks I would even consider being long would be defense and biotech. Everything else is over with, in my opinion. Even the big five tech company. You guys want to hear a stat? What is it? 33% of the stock market gains last year were because of tech. Were because of Apple and Amazon. Also, Apple's not going to work next week, folks. Okay, good for you. Yeah, Chris, I'm absolutely. Yeah, I believe you. I was simply saying people on TV seem drunk as well. Chris, they're smoking the hopium. I mean, most of those guys are doing a good job, at least that I watch, saying, most of them are sitting on their hands. And remember, if you're sitting on CNBC for an hour, you're sitting on CNBC for an hour. You ain't on the phone with guys at the Pentagon, the CDC, or whatever. They like to say those who can't become commentators. And it's always funny to see the cheerleaders on CNBC like, hey, another up 400-point day on the Dow. It's the all clear. I'm like, are you retarded? So whenever they see green on their screen, if you're a coiffed financial news reporter, you assume that green is just because people are buying. It ain't people usually, and usually it's a short squeeze. So this is whenever you see a V recovery like this, it's usually not human. So I know that sounds weird, but you guys are all smart and educated enough to figure that out. Short squeeze and algos. Okay. So, all right. Yeah. Sorry about that. Yeah, you bet. It's right here. Go.topgunoptions.com/getft. I know I went way too late, folks, but I've never in my 27 years of doing this seen this before. We are in uncharted territory. 15 years as a naval aviator, as a fighter pilot, I've done my share of crazy contingency planning. I sailed in these waters off China and Vietnam and through the Philippines, and we've done some, hey, what if this happens? What if that happens? I've never, ever seen anything like this. Dutch, you got it, man. This is Alan Greenspan years ago said use those two words, irrational exuberance. This is irrational exuberance. But you know what happened after he used that term, irrational exuberance? The market continued to go up for like 6 months. So anyway, guys, tomorrow is it. Tomorrow at 10 a.m. is our final. We're going to do a weekly debrief, man, and we're going to talk about what's going on going into the weekend here. It's nuts. So grab your slot. Like I said, about 85 to 90% of the folks here at Top Gun Options are in max afterburner. If you want to do offensive, knock yourself out, or defensive, it says on here what you get in each one. I'm not going to bore you for the rest of the night to do this. I'm not a huge marketing guy. This is why I open up the doors to the squadron. It should sell itself. So, all right, one more time. PW, do you know this was from Wuhan city leader said in his press release video? Wuhan has 11.4 million permanent residents, plus 5 to 6 million people who are temporary residents. After the quarantine announced 3 days, about 5 million. Oh my God, that's right. So folks, people, and I'm not going to be disparaging, but there's a lot of immigrants. There's a lot of folks who ain't walking around with like Chinese ID cards. So he's saying about 5 million people escaped from Wuhan and tried to get other large cities like Beijing and Shanghai, and those people, lots of them were infected and spread all over the country. So before Wuhan was locked down, folks, do you remember that? They started like, hey, at noon tomorrow, we're going to shut the railroad stations. What the hell would you do if you were in Wuhan and you're like, holy crap, they're shutting the railroad stations down tomorrow? You got on a rail car that night, or you hopped in a car, or you freaking walked. So I didn't know that number was that large, PW. I know that there was a lot of people who fled Wuhan before the quarantine started. Yes, it took them 3 days to put in the quarantine. Guys, you're hearing, and just let me scroll up a little bit, just so I wanted to save time by not showing you all these screenshots, but this is what I'm reading, man. You guys are seeing what I'm seeing. So I appreciate all that, man. Please, if you can, make it to tomorrow's brief, tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. and bring some more intel with you, because this is just absolute insanity, man. That's insane. Wow. And exactly, Rick. It all happened to the Lunar New Year. It's bad. Doc Bliss, hey, good to see you. In the New York Times, China has taken drastic actions to bar people from leaving affected areas, though 5 million people departed Wuhan alone before the restrictions went into effect. So Doc Bliss just confirmed that the New York Times is confirming what our buddy's saying. So here you go, guys. There's 5 million people. Let's do the math. There's 20 people on a cruise ship of 3,700 people. Go up to 5 million and tell me how many affected people are. So at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, you're being lied to. Can you fault them? I can. If I was Donald Trump, I'd get on TV and say, hey, America, here's the truth. I elected Donald Trump to be a straight shooter with us, but there are some things that the government doesn't think we should know, ladies and gentlemen. Here he is touting impeachment and this and State of the Union. I don't know, man. All right, I got to go. Got to go hang out with the kids before they go to bed. And Yeah, the recording's going to be on this page, man. I'm going to go hang out with the kids because it's late, and then as I'm hanging out with them, the replay is going to render, and it's going to be on this page, right? So, yeah, exactly. That's insane. So, all right, guys, man, I'll say it one more time. I want to be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm full of shit. I hope my VIX calls go out worthless. Period. I don't mind losing money on buying some VIX calls if this thing is all one big hoax. I swear to God, man, this feels horrific. I'm telling you, when I got buddies who have stars on their shoulders are worried, these dudes ain't. When guys smarter than me and in a hell of a lot more senior positions in the military and the government are worried, and who sent me the email? I got this wrong the other day. Tom Cotton's from Arkansas. I kept saying he was from Texas. What the hell's wrong with me? Senator from Arkansas, Tom Cotton, said 2 months ago, this was before this thing got really huge. He said this was a bioweapon mistake from China. Nobody listened to him. So, Kevin, you nailed it. Wars and genocide start when shit like this happens. Kevin, I think you get the quote. Karen, I did. If you saw all the chairman of the Joint Chiefs and all the heads of the military branches, they look pretty. They didn't look too good. But all right, guys. Anyway, see you tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. No, I don't know, Steve. I don't know if we're gonna have any monthly stuff tomorrow. We'll see. My phone was buzzing throughout the webinar, which means people are signing up. And it's funny. This was the second quickest sign up rate since the last time the market imploded. So when things are going great and we're printing money, people, it's when this type of crap happens. People flock to Top Gun options, and I'll take that as a compliment. So, Scott, I was going to say that. Scott, I don't think Donald Trump looked that good either, man. He looked like he has had some sleepless nights. Could you imagine being the president and, knowing that this is going on? You're being told that by your dudes, that there's probably 250,000 people in China infected and about 50 to 75,000 have been cremated. Folks, if you don't think that on our satellites we're picking up this black cloud over Wuhan, if you don't think the CIA and the national, we know what's going on, guys, and it's bad. So other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, how is the play? So have a great rest of your night. I'll get the replay posted before I go to bed, and then I'll see you at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning for our weekly debrief, and we'll see how Asia closes, man, and see if we're wrong. All right, guys, God bless and welcome aboard to all of our new folks. I'll see you tomorrow.